It's Ken Rutkowski. How you doing? I'm hanging out with William Quigley, and this is Coin DMZ. William, you and I were just tossing around an idea. We need to do a great podcast on what's going on with the crypto space, because there's stuff out there.
Yeah,
it's not bad.
It's not bad, but this is such a giant industry at this point. There's so much going on every place in the world that it would be like saying, hey, we need one channel to talk about sports. Well, what type of sports?
Yeah.
Right? And where? The blockchain and everything going on around ICOs and big industries trying to come in and figure out how to work with the blockchain. All the new technologies that are coming about, brand new ones that are sort of blockchain-like, but are not blockchain, things like Hashgraph. All of this stuff is happening simultaneously. Yeah. So one podcast, you could definitely have 50 of them.
We're going to dive deep into something right now. Okay. I just want to talk about fraud. Okay. All the fraud stuff that's going on. Sounds like it's coming out of one specific country. Is it the case?
When you say fraud, what type of fraud are you talking about?
Let's talk about ICO fraud.
ICO fraud. Yeah, it's an interesting topic, right? Because we're here early November of 2017. There's a lot of ICOs, initial coin offerings, people who are raising money, I guess. It's tokens, but they're raising tokens, Ethereum or Bitcoin tokens, to go build something. And like anything, if it's really a fantastic idea, you get serious-minded people and legitimate people, and then you get some kind of scammy ones who are like, oh, how can I take advantage of this, right? Everything had it. When we were at Idea Lab and we created the click for placement concept, what Google winds up using for search. I remember the first time I heard about click fraud. That was a new concept because we had invented the concept, Bill Gross, the founder of Idea Lab, invented the concept of paying for where you're ranked in the search. And of course, people who wanted to make more money would click.
They manipulated it, right? They would click farms that were out there.
Yes. And so this is not surprising. However, since you asked me about it, I've been all over the world in the last 2 months, and Shanghai and Beijing and
Seoul,
and
Singapore,
London, all over. In certain parts of the world where you've got some real enterprising people, they are saying, hey, why don't we just claim we're creating a new coin and have a nice website, and even some of these guys will even steal the LinkedIn profiles of legitimate people and say, send me tokens.
Sounds like a certain country might be more susceptible to doing this. Is it Chinese-based?
Well, I think
we see more Chinese-based on this
I would
fraud.
say prior to the Chinese ban, the government ban on ICOs, I would say it was becoming a problem in China. And one of the, I think the responses from the Chinese government was the correct response, which was just by saying these things are banned, what they were communicating to the populace was, there's a problem with this stuff, guys. Now, then it started shifting to some other countries. I would say I don't think it's a real problem yet in the U.S. Yet. I don't think it is. And who knows? It could become, but there's a lot of lessons to be learned about the fraud. By the way, there's another element of fraud I don't know if we've touched on. So you have people who literally fake that they're going to build a coin. They create something on the web, and then they never do it.
Vaporware kind of thing.
Yeah, vaporware. Yeah. Then you've got guys, the other type of fraud that does happen, I guess you could say everywhere, is people who target legitimate ICOs, and they try to create domain names that look a lot like that ICO.
We saw this with a mutual friend of ours, Brock Pierce, when they launched this whole thing, EOS, Ethereum operating system, where everyone started launching EOS. Another domain name that looked like it to try to coerce people to go in there to invest on that side.
Yeah, so what you saw was things like domains that were similar. I think with a company called Tezos, it was very clever. They switched around the Z and the S, which sort of looks similar. They just reversed them, and people wound up going to the wrong domain and contributing their Ethereum coins. And then they're like, hey, Tezos, why haven't I gotten a confirmation? We don't have a record of you. So it is a problem. And this beyond the scope of this conversation, but this fraudulent domains that look close to real domains has become a massive problem on e-commerce.
Mm-hmm. It pisses you off.
Well, it does. It always does, because anytime, it reminds me of my days at Disney when we had a lot of counterfeiting going on. And people would say to me, because I was the finance head for the licensing group, people would say to me, why do you guys waste your time going after these little mom and pop operators in LA?
But you did.
Right? And we did.
You guys,
and we got the Royal Canadian Mounted Police to go into a storage locker and get like $1,000 worth of fake stuff. You know why we did that? Because we wanted the message going around that we're coming for you, right?
But there's no police in this aspect.
Well, you can't, whenever you're dealing with anything on the web, and particularly the blockchain community, you can say there's no formal police, there's no police represented by some government, but there are lots of eyes, looking at lots of stuff, and so you can. When you have the power of the crowd looking at lots of things going on, you go to Reddit, you go to the Telegram channel, you go to any other social network,
channels, right?
Slack channels, you can get a lot of data about is this legit or not.
Tell me about, and I know you feel uncomfortable saying names because I'm going to say them, the Tim Draper situation.
You mean with?
Well, with his ICO.
Right. So that was Tezos, right? And Tim's a very respected venture capitalist.
Incredible respected, right?
And I would just say, I haven't dug into all of the drama. Okay. All I can say is, it doesn't seem to me like there's like fraud of what we were talking about earlier. It seems to be more like there is a disagreement among partners, and you've got this team in I think they're in San Francisco who claim one thing, and then another person that's affiliated, I think that guy runs the foundation, who's saying another thing. And to me, this is a business dispute that got aired.
Okay, that makes more sense. Do you feel there is a capital for blockchain and there is a capital for ICOs? Meaning, if I would say San Francisco is the capital for technology, at one point in time we would agree on that. Los Angeles,
Silicon Valley.
Right, or we would say, the
LA for
content.
Hollywood.
Content, right?
Yep.
Is there a capital for blockchain?
There is not.
It's just distributed everywhere, you think?
Yeah, absolutely.
There's no centralized?
No.
How about ICOs?
The same.
Is there any one country that seems to really...
No.
Is that a good thing?
It's a wonderful thing.
Because you like that whole decentralized.
Well, what I like is I like to unlock all the creative energies of everybody around the world. Yeah. And you go to a meetup in Seoul, in Tel Aviv, in London, New York, Frankfurt, wherever it is, you will have hundreds of people who want to talk about what they're doing in the blockchain. Right now, we would have done this at the dawn of the internet, I really think, but we didn't have the communication tools built yet. So we weren't going and doing, quote, meetups. Now you can say, I just got done with Ethereum DevCon down in Cancun. Great event around,
Packed.
Yeah, packed. Sold out. Hotels sold out. Everybody's talking about how can Ethereum be used to do some really cool things that we will be seeing in the coming years. And what you see is there's just tons of people who are coming together literally in a matter of hours. Somebody goes in a Telegram channel and says, I'm going to have a meetup at this restaurant at 7 o'clock.
It happens.
And 100 people show up. So, yeah, this is a fully connected community, and you don't need to be in any one geographic location.
I'm a voyeur. So I'm Ken Rutkowski. I'm a talk show host. William is a seasoned entrepreneur, venture capitalist. You're deep into this. You're deep. I'm kind of been watching on the outside, toying around. I kind of see a lot of guys like you, like weathermen from Chicago. Let me explain that. The saying was, if you don't like the weather in Chicago, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Because they couldn't predict it properly.
Yeah.
Most people that are in any form of crypto right now, if I ask them to give me a forecast of what's going to happen, they're wrong. Yeah. Why is this so difficult to predict?
And me too. Why is it so difficult to predict? Because it is decoupled from all of the investment and business protocols that we have been trained on and experienced with. I'll give you an example. Yesterday, there was an announcement that the battle going on within the Bitcoin community, some wanted a certain technology, SegWit, some didn't. And who knew how it was going to wind up? But in a typical world where you had a company and there was a battle internally over its future, that company would be considered a risky company and people would sort of go away from it. And they would come back when it got resolved, or maybe they wouldn't come back, right? So what happened to Bitcoin? As this battle, as it became apparent that it may not be solved in an optimal way over the last 2 or 3 months, Bitcoin has been skyrocketing.
It's insane.
So that violates all the traditional rules we know, right? And then yesterday, the SegWit camp said, you know what? We're not going to be pushing this anymore, even though I think there was a lot of valid arguments. The number one valid argument, if you consider Bitcoin to be a consumer mass market payment platform, then you have to do something about the mining fees. My company, Opskins, is the largest company, I believe, on the planet that accepts and pays out people in Bitcoin. We run a virtual item exchange. And we pay a fortune in these fees, in these mining fees. And they've gone up well over 1,000%.
One reason why you're creating your own coin.
One reason for our industry, we're creating a coin to deal with that. That's right. And not the only reason, but one. And so the fact that this civil war ended yesterday, right? And the SegWit 2 people said, fine, we'll go away if you guys really don't want to do this, effectively. Should have meant that, wow, all of this pressure has been taken off of Bitcoin because of the risk it was in. Now it's going to skyrocket. I mean, it did go up a bit, and then it just went, you know where? At the exact same price it is today. So it's like, why wasn't this news incorporated into the price?
But you can't predict that.
You cannot.
It blows my mind.
And it's because I believe part of it is in traditional, let's say, stock market investing. It's the instant a bit of news comes out, it's incorporated in the price. But of course, for decades, we've been building high frequency trading platforms and listening devices.
Yeah, but we see this with interest rates. Generally, that type of news is built inside an interest rate. It doesn't work this way with crypto.
So what I think it is you have so many people who are influencing the price of these things, and some of them don't care. So a lot of them are just, I'm Bitcoin, come hell or high water, I don't care. That's not a behavior you really see in the stock market. Because remember, owning a Bitcoin or any crypto is one part kind of like utilitarian mindset. What can I do with it? Why is it going to help me? And one part, it's like you're part of a movement.
Yeah, but when I used to day trade, you did too probably at one point in time.
Poorly.
You had to be educated.
Yes.
You really did. And you watch markets and trends and try to guess. People that day trade in Bitcoin or crypto, they don't use the same type of input modes we use.
Because part of that is because, as I'm saying, you and I, let's say, find out a day before or something that, this civil war is going to end. In a traditional stock trading environment, we would know that's going to be positive news.
That's right.
In this world, what would we have done with that news? I wouldn't have known whether to go long or to go short. And so that's just one aspect of cryptos. By the way, I actually think it's one of the reasons it's compelling to me, because the rules have not been written. Right? And therefore you can influence the rules.
And I know people that are listening, some of them might be seasoned traders on crypto, and they're going, of course, we've heard all this before. But the people that are on the outside that are listening saying, it's too late to get in the game, give me some statistics regarding what's the marketplace look like right now?
All right. Well, okay, it's a great question. And I'm often asked this question, am I too late? Am I too late? You know what's crazy? Since 2011, I have been hearing, and cryptos, you could say the white paper came out, Satoshi's white paper came out in 2008, 2009 people were mining, but 2010, 11, 12, it was, you would call pretty early days. And every year people would say, it's too late. It's too late.
$3,
it's too late.
$30,
right.
$90.
Right. Every time it's too late. So here's what I would say. A, it ain't too late. This is in a petri dish still, right? In the lab. This thing has not gone mainstream.
Okay.
You have got PayPal has maybe 500 million active customers of their PayPal wallets, right?
Million.
One little payment provider in the world, 500 million people using it. All of cryptos in the world have about 4 million people. It's an estimate. It could be 5, it could be 3.5. But let's just say, for sake of argument, it's 4. There are 4 million people globally who have a crypto wallet who are using it to do some kind of commerce transaction. I mean, and so anyone who says, well, am I too late? I would say, you know what? There's a good chance you're too early. There's a lot to be done. A lot to be done.
I always tell, and this is probably, I know you're going to hate me for even saying this. I always tell people if they want to get into it and they don't have a lot of money, buy a little Ripple. Just
or
this
drink
way.
some.
Or drink some, right? But it's so inexpensive. But it's all relative, obviously, right?
Right.
But the irony is, Ripple and Ethereum have been basically flat.
Yeah, for a while.
Yeah.
Right? And there's a lot of, and when you say flat, what you're referring to is the prices haven't moved.
We haven't seen giant spikes.
But even let's think about this. If you bought I'm guessing here, I think Ethereum was maybe, $20 in February.
That's last year. We're talking about the last couple of months.
Yeah, it's 2017.
Yeah.
I think Ethereum was about maybe $20 in February.
Oh, this year?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So, maybe because we sensitize on time.
That's
the last
point.
2 months, it's been
That's
300.
the point I'm making. And I tell you this: in December 1st, 2nd, 3rd of last year, Ethereum was $6.
Yeah, good point.
So in February,
it's not flat.
Say it was 20, and now let's say it's July and it's 400, which I think is what it was. All right, and now it's about 325. So if I told you went from $6 in December,
I get it,
to it's now in November and it's 325, and you say, yeah, it's flat. It would be kind of funny, right? But what we have here is for the past 2 or 3 months, Ethereum's kind of been flat in price. And so people are like, oh, it's dead money. It's like, well, just wait a few more weeks, be a little more patient.
But there is no patience in this industry. That's the irony.
Yeah, and you could put it a different way and say there hasn't been a need to be patient because at any given moment there's a new crypto coin being hatched that could be 100x return, right? And as I even talk to you about this, Ken, I'm thinking I don't want to emphasize to people the rapid volatility of these coins. You understand? They do go up, they do go down. Will they be good long-term holdings? I do not know. All I know is that the blockchain and the what blockchain will do to existing industries and what new business models it's going to create is going to be a powerful economic driver.
So, William, I'm seeing a lot of pyramid schemes popping up now. And I'm going to say names. You don't have to, okay? BitConnect. Have you heard this one?
I have.
Yeah. All my friends in Asia are all over this. Oh, I'm getting 2% return every day. I mean, it's just incredible, insane numbers. And they don't really even know what they're putting money into because it's been packaged in a way to where they have offices, it looks like legitimate businesses, and it's being presented like they're the next generation of banks.
Yeah.
And I see that there could be a potential collapse of all this, giving this whole industry a bad name because people are kind of riding on the idea of people's low education in the space.
Okay, well, first I'll say one thing. We don't have to worry about the crypto or Bitcoin community having trouble over a bad name. I mean, this whole concept has been attacked by the forces in power, banks and regulators, governments, since it began. Right. I think for the first 2 or 3 years, you would not see a sentence that didn't have Bitcoin and money laundering, Bitcoin and drug smuggling, right?
You're right.
That's just how it's been since the dawn of this because, hey, it's a threat, right? By the way, I believe if everybody in an industry like the newspaper industry and the music industry, the travel industry had seen what was coming with the web, those lobbyists would have done that very same thing in the mid-90s. They would have said, this is a den of thieves reside here on the internet,
Good
right?
point.
So, yeah, but I will say, yes, it is very easy for people who are not credible and who have less than honorable intentions to exploit people on blockchain and Bitcoin related investments. Yeah,
because they're packaging it in a way that's easy to understand.
Yeah.
And there's something to learn from that.
There is, because as you know, one of the things that I focus on constantly as a lifelong builder of consumer companies and consumer products, one of the things I focus on is how do we make the crypto space more accessible to the everyday consumer? And it is not easy. It's hard to even buy a crypto, a Bitcoin,
Absolutely.
or anything else. It's hard to trade them. It's unfamiliar to people, and so we have to do a lot of work. And you're right. Some scammers are out there saying, "I'm going to make it easy." So there are lessons to be learned from that. And unfortunately, their intentions are bad. But the next phase of the build out, the infrastructure around cryptocurrencies and blockchain is how do we get the consumer mass market to adopt it? And as you know, we've talked, it's not just like a replacement for PayPal, right? That's lame. There are things though that a PayPal or any other payment provider can't do with the traditional technology. What we need is that level of thinking to be applied, particularly to people who have consumer problems.
I'm looking at you. You look like you're over 45. I'm guessing you
Yep.
are, right?
Yep.
Probably. Are you one of the old guys in this? Or are you seeing...
You know, I probably am. I mean, what you see in this industry is you see, it's like a barbell, right? You see a group of people who are like, this might be their first entrepreneurial initiative, right? They're at a high school, college, and they're like, hey, the way, we looked at the web, they're looking at the blockchain.
Okay.
And then you have people who have been around. I've been a venture capitalist for 20 plus years, incubated a lot of companies, grown them, and we're looking at what the blockchain has, and we're saying, wow, I can apply that to a lot of problems that I couldn't solve before. Right? So you get two different camps.
Are they getting along?
Oh, the one thing about the crypto community that I've loved is it is a community. I mean, you go to these conferences, they're like happenings, revivals. It's the same sort of energy and excitement we saw in the early days of the internet.
Internet world.
Yeah,
Remember
internet
that? It was
world.
called Internet World. It was everything.
Yes.
And that's what you're seeing. Blockchain world. It's everything.
But you know what? You don't see an internet world, which is what's so cool. What you see is in any given day, somewhere in the world, there are conferences and meetups happening. It's distributed across the world.
So as we're designing the show, because again, this is our infancy. We're the first one. Let's try it out. I want to get technical in the aspect of where right now is some of the biggest technical issues that are going on that are kind of not discussed when it comes to, is it platforms?
So for one thing, you got to understand here, if there's something that's a technical issue, it's being discussed.
It's being discussed.
You go to Reddit, you go to Telegram, you go to Slack, you go to Twitter, right? Remember, this is a community. They share a lot of information. And of course,
and it's transparent.
It's transparent because for the most part, you can take any blockchain, and there's many chains, and you can take a copy of it and build your own thing on it, right? It's open source. So, but you asked the question, two things are like foremost in my mind. One is identity. So how and when do you want to track identity? And identity can be defined in many different ways. And then it's scaling, right? It's transaction speed. So probably maybe it's not fair to say this, but one of the places where you have most of the technical development efforts being focused is on transaction speeds. Why? Because they are painfully slow.
Right.
These chains like Bitcoin and Ethereum, they're painfully slow compared to the existing infrastructure, right? Tens of thousands to 100,000s of transactions per second in the traditional payment world versus
eight.
Yeah,
it's horrible.
8. Right. So, but I will say this: those problems are solvable, and they're getting solved.
Any certain groups that you're excited that are going after that in an aggressive way?
Well, yeah. I mean, you've got tons of people going. You've got Hashgraph, which is not even it's not born of call it the Bitcoin blockchain. It's a brand new chain using different cryptographic protocols. You've got EOS. You've got obviously Ethereum. You have then traditional old now Bitcoin, which has a lot of devs saying, how do we accelerate it? Of course, we just finished this phase where A lot of them rejected SegWit 2, which was going to help with that. But okay, so there's a lot of people attempting to do it. It's going to get solved.
I call you often when I'm with people that I want to get excited. I want them to get excited about blockchain. Generally, it's my dad, and I use you as the professor. And something I said that was improper, and I go, so William, tell my dad about all the banks and institutions that are jumping on board of blockchain and Bitcoin. And you go, there's none. There really is none. There's no banks that have...
And it depends. I guess what I would say is because there'll be guys like, not really bank, but NASDAQ and others who will say, what are you talking about? We're doing all this work, right? What I'm saying is it's not that they won't get there. It's just, first, this stuff has to be understood. I keep trying to convey this point. This is a way of thinking about the storage of information and about how we transact, which as humans we've been doing for thousands of years. This is a new way of thinking. You don't just incorporate new ways of thinking into a $90 trillion global economy overnight.
The legacy partners can't adopt that fast.
Yeah, it's not that they're slow and stupid.
They just have to plug into some old...
It's like, oh, do you know what our install base is? Yeah, we've got a very long list of install base. We have to, upgrade these people slowly, which is why what you'll see the most probably, quote, exciting part of blockchain will be brand new initiatives that are not coupled to any of the traditional systems already in place, right? Where it's completely blockchain based, for instance, trading, right? Where you don't need to worry about, well, how do I do and plug into all of these other existing systems? That's where we're going.
How about governments? Any government you're excited that's getting involved?
Well, a lot has changed in 2017. For those people who follow it, we went through sort of this era of excitement in 2010, 11, 12. 2013, it got on the radar. Mt. Gox, the big, largest at the time, crypto exchange collapsed. And then 2013, 14, I would say were sort of the first dark ages where all the problems that we had been festering started to really come to fore. And then government regulators had learned enough where they started saying, don't do this and don't do that. And some of their edicts were fine, and some, I think, did not really appreciate what was being built. So, and then in 2017, I would say it's become far, far better. You've got a lot of governments that seemed, if not openly hostile, they were very wary of blockchain-based businesses. You have many of them have come around and said, you know what, we're starting to see why this thing is important. My guess is part of that is because you've had big businesses say, wait a minute, like IBM and Microsoft, saying, this stuff is valuable for us.
And Google, yeah, they're all involved. What's your prediction, which you'll be wrong with, for 2018 when it comes to government's involvement inside blockchain?
So I think we are going to now move the majority, we'll say, of the governments, so global governments, not all, there are some will always be hostile, but they're receptive to understanding it and not blocking the rollout of blockchain-based businesses. And some are actually quite supportive, like Japan right now.
They are supportive, you're right. Got about a minute left. What do you want to do with the show?
Well, I think what we could use in any discussion about blockchain is understanding how things have morphed, how technologies have been applied, new technologies have been applied in the past, and how industries respond, what has compelled investors to come in, what has led to consumer adoption. I think we can borrow from some of those experiences that you and I certainly have a lot in.
I don't know what you're saying.
And
I don't know. What are you saying? What did you just say? Why don't you say, let's get some guests on. Let's go after really, really serious situations. Let's have some fun. Let's allow the listeners and viewers to participate. It's show, SHOW, at coindmz.com. You could send us ideas and things you want to hear. That's how you get a hold of William and myself. Again, it's show at coindmz.com. William, I appreciate you hanging out with us. And let's get a little more technical next time. Fair enough?
That would be fine.
All right. This is us. leaving you with hopefully some good insight. Every week we're with you over at Coin DMZ. Thanks a lot, everyone.